Well, hey everyone, and welcome to Get Your Geek On's Marvel Cinematic Universe Retrospective. I'm Robert, that's Aaron, and we're here to talk movie by movie through the MCU's Infinity Saga. 23 movies, 11 years.
Expect spoilers, guys, as we get into each movie, but we will start off each video letting you know if it's whether we consider it an essential movie for the overall arc of the MCU. Think of this as your guide into getting to the MCU.
Right. So, I mean, obviously there's a couple of filler movies in the MCU that maybe you don't have to watch if you just want to, understand a little bit. But if you're a completionist like me, they're all essential, right?
Everything.
So we are on to 2012's The Avengers, directed by Joss Whedon. This is the culmination of Marvel Studios Phase 1. Made over $207 million opening weekend. It was, at the time, it was a record. It was the first movie ever to make $200 million at the opening weekend domestically. Made over $1.5 billion over its entire run. Stars everyone. Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Chris Evans as Captain America, Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk,
His first appearance as the Hulk, too.
His first appearance. Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. They make up the Avengers. Obviously, we got Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury and Tom Hiddleston as Loki.
The return.
So, Aaron.
Yes.
Is this movie essential?
Yes.
Yes. Next
have
question.
to watch it.
Right?
Yeah. No other question.
This is pretty simple. When it comes to this movie, in terms of the overall arc of the MCU, it sets off a lot of storylines. Yeah. Let's just talk about going into this movie. Remember, 2012. So this, to me, people were talking about this. This is the most ambitious crossover event in movie history. It had never been done before. Where this is really, geeks, nerds. We're taking over the world.
This is where it starts. The whole world taken over by us, because this is the last about 4 years at this point, right?
Yep.
5 if you count pre-production of Iron Man. Obviously, people talked about it, but 4 years at least of the movies coming out, the toys, the comics. Everything getting pushed.
This is huge.
This is where geeks are like, oh wow, it's cool to be a freaking geek at this point.
Yeah.
This is where everybody was like, I am a geek. Maybe.
Absolutely. So anticipation was huge. What about personal? Personally, how are you feeling?
I would, if this is I think I remember this correctly, because it's been like how many years now?
I swear it's like 7 years. Yeah, so 8 years almost.
I remember I was with my daughter's mother at the time. And I called a buddy up because he was at the theater, and I was like, this was before they did the whole assigned seatings even at the theater.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. So you had to show up early.
Yeah, you had to show up early if you wanted to get your good seat in. You couldn't, nowadays, you kids, you don't know those hard times of I can get my seat reserved.
Walking to school uphill both ways. All that
15 miles. So I remember calling my buddy up. I was like, hey, man, are you in there? Because I had gotten there late.
Oh, no.
And my buddy's like, yeah, as long as there are chairs next to you. He looks over, yeah. I'm running in. And I just remember I grabbed my girl at the time, and we both just like hauled butt up there. Oh my gosh.
I was so excited. I never thought we would see a movie like this.
No.
Obviously, grew up with X-Men movies, Spider-Man movies that had come out around, obviously the first X-Men movie was 2000. I think the first Spider-Man was 2002.
Yeah.
So, we had seen superhero movies on a big scale before. Obviously, Batman movies, going back in time, the Superman movies, but a team-up movie where we have not just, like the X-Men was a team-up movie, but we never got a Cyclops movie and a Storm movie and a Wolverine movie.
No,
like this was literally, we had seen all of these characters with their own movies, and now they're coming together in a, this is like a crossover like in the comics. And
exactly.
It was like, we've got the Avengers.
Exactly.
So yeah, I was so excited. Again, I never thought I would get this movie. My first time watching this movie, you just talked a little bit about going into the theater, right? My first time, this was the best cinematic experience of my life.
Oh, yeah.
Going into this, a couple movies since have gotten me in the same way this one did.
Yeah.
But I never thought I would see this movie.
No.
Moment one, this movie's amazing. I would say this is the movie that made me into the geek that I am today. So
it's the movie which, like you said already, it made being a geek cool. Yeah. It made people say that didn't see those movies for whatever reason.
Sure.
Who saw just this Avengers movie say, who the heck's Thor? Who's this person? And then their geeky boyfriend just took him out, or geeky girlfriend.
Yeah.
Took him out and was like, you gotta watch everything now.
And like I said, I mean, this was the most successful movie in history from a opening box office weekend perspective. And I don't know that anybody expected that. You know, 200 million had never been done before. Let's get into it real quick. Very quick plot summary.
Yeah.
Loki, villain from Thor, comes to Earth. He's here to conquer, right? That's why he's here.
Sums it up. Yeah.
He's gotta steal the Tesseract to open up a portal. He's here to conquer. The Avengers have to come together. Hawkeye gets mind controlled for a little bit. The Avengers fight with each other a little bit. Eventually they come together. They defeat Loki. They end the alien invasion. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the summary because I want to talk about the movie.
Oh yeah.
So
we all know.
I love this movie. You love it too. What stands out?
So first of all, I'm a huge fan of Joss Whedon. I love his direction. I love where he goes with this movie in general.
The dialogue in this movie is through the roof.
Point.
It's so good. I would say, if we're just talking the core Avengers, the only character I would say gets a little bit of a short shift is Hawkeye.
Right.
You know, and that's partially because he's mind controlled for the first half of the movie. But I would even say just in terms of like character introductions, you know, Black Widow gets a great character introduction. The Hulk gets a great character introduction.
He stole that whole scene too.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. And you see, obviously, you know, Iron Man and Captain America, their introductions aren't necessarily as powerful, but I do want to talk about, just through the entire character introductions, this movie is so smart in the way it goes through its things. You know, obviously we get the opening scene with Loki, Hawkeye, Nick Fury, and Eric Selvig. You know, kind of are in this underground bunker.
Maria Hill, you said?
Yeah, she's in it too. Coulson shows up. So that's where our main characters, and then we cut to Black Widow. Right, and we get her great introduction. You know, where she's in Russia. And, you know, she gets called out, right? Yeah. And then it cuts to, you know, it's the big guy. You know, we're talking about Hulk. So it cuts to their scene. That's great. Then it cuts to, wars are won by soldiers, right? So you get a little bit of a council meeting. It's won by soldiers. Cut to the super soldier, right? And then my favorite transition, I can't believe, except for Thor, Iron Man's the last one that gets introduced. Yep. And it's a great transition where, Fury and Captain America are talking. They talk about the Tesseract. Got any advice for me? Yeah, you should have left it in the ocean. Cut to Tony Stark in the ocean. Like, it's so, this movie is so smart. This movie is so smart.
He is. So, speaking of that part real quick, I want to ask you.
Yeah.
You covered everybody except Thor so far who's come out.
Right, he comes later.
Who is, including Thor, your favorite introduction? Is it Captain? Is it
my favorite Black introduction Widow? In this movie is Bruce Banner, which I didn't think it would be. Because looking back, I remember I've seen this movie a ton of times. I think in the last video I talked about Captain America: The First Avenger probably being the one that I had seen the most.
Yes.
I don't know which one it is between those two movies. Like the Avengers is right up there. I've seen it a ton of times. And I remember loving the Black Widow introduction because that scene is great for establishing...
I'm getting all this information.
Right. Establishing that she's in control 100% even when it looks like she's not. She's able to, easily, beat people up and all this stuff. She's very smart, all that stuff. Her introduction is great. But the Bruce Banner introduction is because you have to introduce this new actor. Which they had never... Mark Ruffalo playing Bruce Banner, the Hulk, for the first time.
Yes.
And so... You get introduced to him as this, he's just trying to help people, he's and now he's confronted by Black Widow, he's confronted by Natasha, and there's this great scene where, he's talking about, I don't always get what I want, and as he's doing that, he's swinging a baby crib, which is like, does he, he wants a family, it's just all of it's so good. He has this moment where he slams his hands on the table and freaks out Black Widow. I just love that because it does so much. You're introducing a new actor to that character, and really you're introducing that character to us. And I think it really, I think one thing this movie does really well is you don't have to have seen any of the previous movies.
No.
I think it obviously helps you if you have.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. This movie gives you a background really on everybody except Iron Man. And they're kind of assuming you've seen those movies because there's already been 2 and they were super successful.
Yeah.
But you get a good background on, Thor and Loki. You get a good background on Captain America. You get a good background on Bruce Banner. You get a good background on Black Widow. Hawkeye, you don't really get much.
No.
You just need to know that he's a spy basically, or he's an agent.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my favorite introduction. Okay. What about you?
Honestly, I think my favorite one was Thor. Because at this point, we had the Thor movie, the Rainbow Bridge is gone.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you see the dark clouds, and you see Loki even freak out for a moment.
Oh, that's great dialogue there.
Oh, yeah, I don't like what comes after.
Right, I'm not overly fond of what comes after. Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And then the stupid Iron Man, I'm gonna go mess with it, open the door and let Thor right in. It's like, well, okay. Yeah. And I love it scene because it shows that, first of all, Thor, as much as he cares about humans, he kind of didn't care for that moment. He just cares about his brother. He loves him. Stop
with this nonsense. Let's go home. Exactly. Like that's his motivation in the scene. So I agree with you. I think that's a great character introduction.
When I first saw it, hit me. This time, of course, I've seen it, like you said, 100 times. But that first moment in the theater, I was like, wow.
Well, and then you transition into a great Iron Man versus Thor fight.
Oh, I love the snarky remark by Loki. I'm listening.
Right, yeah, as he gets plowed through. But then you get that great fight, and, it's Shakespeare, Shakespeare in the park.
Does thou mother know we have thy draped?
Right, yeah. It's that whole line, and there's a great moment where like Iron Man, like headbutts him, and Thor just headbutts him back.
Yeah.
And you can see like Iron Man flies back, and there's a little dent on his helmet from it's really great. Like,
I love when he shoots him with the light. Like, yeah. Oh, I just supercharged him.
400% power. Yeah. And even like Cap shows up then, and it's
the Holy Trinity is right there.
Right.
The first time we get the Holy Trinity of their Holy Trinity, because DC has their own, but
yeah, of course.
Thor, Cap, and Iron Man, the Holy Trinity of Marvel.
Yeah, and it's put the hammer down. No, he loves his hammer.
He loves the hammer.
Right, and then you get the first Mjolnir versus Captain America's shield moment.
Yes.
So that's really cool. I love all that. And then now we get Loki is captured. Right. So now we're into that whole section of the movie. Everything on the helicarrier. When we're talking about favorite scenes, I think one of my favorite scenes is the scene where they're all arguing with each other as
they're talking right?
Well, they're talking about the fact that the scepter. Yeah. Where they're talking about the fact that like SHIELD has been working on this phase 2 plan, which is basically making powered weapons. And, so Captain America's pissed off about that. Iron Man and Cap are going at one another. Thor is kind of like, you guys are petty. It's this whole scene where they're all arguing with one another. Yeah. And I think that scene is fantastic.
It's an amazing scene, and I love it. And because you said it, I can't pick it now. Because I love that scene too. But honestly, where I want to take a step back, because we are in 2012.
Yeah.
We have had strong females in Tomb Raider and a bunch of other, people.
Sure. But you go back in time, Alien, T2,
And I look at now everyone's like, oh, we need to have strong women characters. But everybody forgets, I think, Black Widow's character in this movie. Because I forgot even, how, like you said, the first act, we see her beat the crap out of those 3 guys like that while she's tied up in the chair, mind you.
Oh, yeah.
While she's even interrogating him.
Yeah.
And then she goes to Loki.
That scene is great.
That's my second favorite scene. So I'm going to go with that because I love the scene you mentioned.
Yeah.
But that's my second favorite. A man who is a god. He is a god. And she still tricks him like she does a normal human.
Well, and part of why that works is because, they even have that dialogue between Loki and Thor where, he's talking about, I want to rule them. And he's like, you think that you're above them? Well, yes. Yeah. He has this moment like, obviously I am. I'm a god.
But you're not.
And that's the thing, too, where obviously you see Loki get undercut really almost by every character in this movie. There's that great scene where, Cap and Loki face off in Germany. I love that scene.
That's a great scene too.
And then there's obviously the scene between Black Widow and Loki. You see him later in the movie get beat up by Hulk, which is amazing.
Oh my gosh!
That's a great moment. And really, that to me stand out everything with the Hulk. He's the breakout character literally of this movie. He breaks out of everything that he's in. But like the fight with him on the helicarrier with him and Thor is so fantastic.
Fun. I loved it.
I think one of the things that has been one of my favorite Hulk moments from any movie ever is when they bring in the plane to kind of draw his attention,
up, yeah.
and he jumps on it and he's just like ripping it to pieces, and the guy goes to eject and he catches the pilot and he's just like and he just throws him.
Get out of
like,
here.
It's just like this great Hulk moment where he's this guy thinks he's like gonna escape and he's like no, and then he's just like I'm done with you.
I
like
love it.
It's a great moment. Obviously, like later in the movie when he punches Thor out of nowhere, the puny god moment, like everything with Hulk is fantastic.
It is, and now as a comic book, I don't know how much you've read in the comic books at this point.
Yeah.
And when I watched the movie, and again watching it now, I still picked up on all of the little Easter eggs, like the life model decoy, which is an LMD from the comics.
That's great with Tony Stark.
Yes. So I think loving all that stuff too at this point. If you're a huge comic fan, if you've read comics for the last 20 years, you picked up on all these little things here and there. And I think because you went with the Hulk, one of my favorite scenes with him, if you read the Ultimates comic, which is where Samuel Jackson Nick Fury is based off of, the Hulk picks up the hammer because he is so strong. He's able to overpower the magic in the hammer. Wow. Now he's not able to like wield it, but it's just like and he just throws it and he hits Thor. Sucker punches Thor with it essentially, which again comes later. Yeah. But I love in the movie they kind of hint towards that same scene because he grabs it and he lifts and the ground below him starts caving in.
Yeah, he basically is like lifting so hard, but the hammer's not moving, so he starts to move into the ground. Yeah,
and that's a scene actually from the comics in the Ultimates comics. If you ever get a chance, read those. The Hulk, it makes a crater in the spot that the hammer's in just to pick up the hammer because he wanted to prove he is stronger than Thor pick up the hammer. So he literally lifts it. And he struggles. He's like, he just throws it.
Yeah, well, and obviously Thor and Hulk kind of have that long-standing rivalry in the comics. And so to see them fight on the helicarrier, and then they fight alongside each other in New York, and there's this moment where they bring down the giant beast, and it's like they're just kind of standing there, and like they're both like, yeah, and then
sucker punch,
just gonna boom, punch you out of frame. It's a great moment.
And
obviously,
I loved it.
That moment too. It's where it's kind of like that's my secret. Yeah. I'm always angry, and he just boom,
one punches that thing.
I mean, this whole movie, like I said, is fantastic. But all that fight stuff in New York, and and there's that great moment where they become a team. Yes. Where obviously the catalyst is Coulson dying.
Has to die. Yep.
And Samuel L. Jackson kind of manipulates that into turning into a catalyst. Yeah. But you see, Tony recognizes that Captain has to be the leader. Captain America has to be the leader. And kind of, he does that call it Captain, and you have, Captain America takes charge. This is where Hawkeye, I need you here. Iron Man, this is your job. Thor, you gotta stop the portal. You gotta me and Black Widow, we're gonna stay down here and keep the fighting on the ground. And Hulk, smash.
My favorite line with the Hulk right there.
It's great. And he just gives this little grin I'm on it. Yeah.
He was so happy. And I think kind of going with that whole theme where you just said Nick Fury, I love that Nick Fury had probably some of the most time at the screen. In all the movies actually, probably.
Yeah, this is among his top ones for sure.
And I like it because we finally get to, Tony mentions, his secrets have secrets.
Yeah.
And that's
the super spy. Yeah.
He is a super spy. He's not a superhero, but he's a super spy. Yeah. No one knows everything like Nick Fury does. Nick Fury knows everything.
Right.
If there's a secret, he already knew your secret, and he knew secrets about that secret you didn't know.
Yep.
And that's what they comment on. And then, like you said, he doesn't mind manipulating a situation to get what he wants out.
Right.
And the whole Coulson death, was it Maria comments, I think.
Yeah.
Those cards were in his locker. They needed a push.
Right.
And it's just whatever.
They needed the push. And I love his interactions with the council are great, especially the one where they're ordering him to send a nuke, and he's the council has made a decision. I recognize that the council's made a decision, but given that it's a stupid ass decision, I've elected to ignore it. It's just great where you're that is Nick Fury. That is what he would do because he is going to have that conviction that I know what needs to happen. He believes in the Avengers. He has faith in the Avengers that they're going to get it done. He gets his little action moment where he gets to shoot the rocket at the plane, and but one of them obviously makes it off. Yeah. And that's really that kind of final confrontation where Tony Stark makes the sacrifice play. They even say that's a one-way trip. Do you want me to call Pepper? In that moment. Are they going to kill Iron Man off? Or at least they're going to send him to space? You know, like maybe he won't die, but you know, like Iron Man's gonna head off.
I'll be back, guys.
Well, not exactly.
Yeah.
But, you know, like that's a great moment where he does, you know, make the sacrifice play, if you will. You know, like he doesn't know that he's going to survive. And, you know, comes back down to earth. I love that moment where Hulk wakes him up. You know, like
screams at him.
He's, what happened? You know, it is. And I love even, you know, Tony Stark again. The dialogue in this movie is great. Robert Downey Jr. is great in that moment there where, you know, Chris Evans is like, "We won.
Yay.
All right, yay, guys. Good job. Let's take a day off tomorrow. Let's just not come in."
I saw a shawarma place.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's when we talk about performances, I think for me, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, I think we really haven't talked about him much, but I think he does a really great job of like playing kind of a petulant child who feels like he deserves this.
He does, yeah.
And, you know, really doesn't care what happens to anybody. Like, this is my right. This is what I'm going to do.
This is my birthright almost. Like, he feels that he has no choice but to take this role because it's his.
Absolutely. So I think he gives a great performance. Robert Downey Jr., we already mentioned. And I think Mark Ruffalo really stands out. I think he immediately, he just basically plants a flag. I am the best Bruce Banner that there's ever been, and maybe that there ever will be.
And you're right. That first act, that first time we see him, gosh, I believed everything he said as like the Hulk. Like I would say, if I had to picture Bruce Banner in that situation, that would have been him, and that would have been how Bruce would have handled that situation. And just to mess with your head, yeah, I could see like any person, rah, and then all these SHIELD agents show up. I thought we were alone, or something about we're alone, or that little offhand comment.
Right, she's like, she's like, stand down. He's like, just us, huh?
Yeah,
you know, like
he knew the whole time these agents are out here to probably kill him, but they're not going to kill him because he's the Hulk.
Right.
And you're right, every scene. And then I love, and this is why I said in an earlier video that we did on the Hulk, he comments, "I put a bullet in my mouth," and the other guy spits it out. So that's why I watched that deleted scene for the Hulk, because it came back around now.
Yep.
And that's why I love this one, because Tony even comments, maybe the Hulk saved you.
And there's and exactly, that's what I was gonna get to. And he goes, "Oh, that's nice for what? You know, what is that for? Why did he save me?" They literally tie it back in Endgame. Like, exactly. I mean, that's why it's this movie and the cinematic universe itself. I mean, Feige is a genius.
He's a genius, and he got we have a great director in Joss Whedon, because he does this one in Age of Ultron. Unfortunately, he leaves after that, but we got 2 good movies out of him at least.
Oh, and
this one, after watching it, I remember how much I love this movie. Oh my god,
dude. It's so good. So let's talk about it. You know, this is our rewatch, our opinion.
Yes.
Has your opinion changed?
It's gotten better, if anything, honestly. Like, again, I've watched it a few times. I'm a Spider-Man freak, so I've watched Spider-Man Homecoming a heck of a lot more. But rewatching it, I'm like, gosh, I really miss this movie.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, like I said, I've rewatched this movie. It's up there with Captain America, the First Avenger, in terms of I've seen this movie at least a dozen times, maybe more. It was on TV all the time too.
Oh gosh, I remember.
So
it was always on.
I've seen this movie a ton of times, and I absolutely love it. Watching it this time, I still love it. There's a couple scenes I think now where I know the movie so well that I kind of check out for just a minute or two.
Oh, I know I did.
But overall, like, this movie is just so good.
It is.
The dialogue is fantastic. The action is fantastic. You know, I love the way that they come together, and they're really, you know, they're not really fighting Loki so much as they're fighting each other.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's really that moment where they finally come together as a team that's when they win. Exactly. And so you know, I love all of that. For me, you know, this movie, it's excellent.
Yeah.
It was in 2012 when it came out, and it still is.
It really is. And again, as a comic book fan, I love the little things here and there that you find. Like I said, life model decoy. Actually, even a gamer. This man's playing Galaga.
Yep.
That little throw in there is cute.
Yep.
We have, what else we have? We have the Hulk scene. I mean, going back and trying to remember all the little.
Oh, there's so many Easter eggs.
Yeah, if you just read the comics, it's just like, oh my gosh, they threw that in there. It's like, oh.
Yeah. And callbacks to previous movies. I mean, talking about, you know, Thor. They're talking about he came and leveled a town. They made the weapon that Coulson uses, you know, based off the Destroyer technology. So yeah, I mean, this movie just it ties together everything in Phase 1.
Yes.
And sets up everything in Phase 2 and 3.
And I loved it because Joss Whedon did it right. Nice little bow. We're all done with phase 1. This was a nice way to complete it. Mm-hmm. Here's our start for phase 2.
So let's talk about the overall Infinity arc.
Right.
We already talked about how much this movie sets up. We do get 2 Infinity Stones. We don't know that there's 2 at the time of this movie, but the Tesseract is the Space Stone, and then Loki's Scepter is the Mind Stone, which it's kind of really weird to think about because they talk about, like, you know, obviously we get hints towards someone is kind of controlling Loki. It ends up being Thanos.
Yes.
You know, so Thanos gave him an Infinity Stone in order for him to retrieve another Infinity Stone. It doesn't really hold up on a logic standpoint.
There's plot holes. Let's face it. There's plot holes in this movie.
Yeah, because the Mind Stone is, you know, in the Scepter. But whatever.
Thanos could have easily just mind controlled somebody else. Can you just bring me that, please?
Yeah.
Thanks.
It was
movie
weird.
over.
So don't worry about it. But, you know, so we get Thanos. This movie really sets up Tony's arc because, especially like in Iron Man 3, he's dealing with, you know, the PTSD basically from the alien invasion. It kind of sets up his arc of how he feels in Age of Ultron with, you know, I want to create a shield of armor around the world. Right. You know, like that, it sets him on that path that he follows in Ultron, that he follows in Civil War, that he follows even all the way up to Infinity War and Endgame. So from setting up future story arcs, this really does play into a lot of the overall arc. It really sets up, especially Tony's character, but I would say really everybody.
It really does because you get... we have Thor Dark World coming out later, right? So you got
Iron Man 3 and Thor Dark World both come out, you know, the next year.
Yeah, so we got the setup for that. We have Iron Man set up. Captain America, we kind of set up for his movie because he's already had, at the end of this movie, he has issues with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, the mistrust with S.H.I.E.L.D., which comes into Winter Soldier. Absolutely.
And that throws Black Widow in there and Hawkeye.
Yep.
Hulk, so we've said this, I think, in the Hulk movie review that we did. Hulk can't get a standalone movie, so we really don't get to see what happened to Hulk, essentially. We kind of get talks about it, is about all we get.
Yeah.
But we just can't see that movie. So yeah, you're right. I think this was a perfect catalyst for everything for Phase 2. You're right. You have to watch it for that.
It sets up the world, and there's so many callbacks to this movie just throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Obviously, you know, Spider-Man Homecoming sets up its villain with this movie.
Yes, that's
Avengers Endgame comes back to this movie. You know, like...
I mean, technically, Deadpool comes back to it now that he's part of the MCU. Technically,
there is a helicarrier that... But we don't know that he's in New York. I mean,
no, that's true.
You know, or wherever that helicarrier is. But yeah, I mean, this movie is the foundation that the MCU was built on. Yeah. Iron Man and the Avengers 1, 2... This movie set us on the path that we're on now, where we're still getting movies and, you know, more and more.
I can't remember. At this point, did Disney already own them? I can't remember.
So this is kind of in the time period where right in between, I think it was like in 2011. I think it was after Captain America: The First Avenger came out that they announced that Disney had acquired Marvel Studios.
So in that middle part.
And so this movie had already been mostly made by the time Disney acquired Marvel Studios, but it hadn't been released yet. It still ends up as part of that deal. The only time Disney's logo shows up in this movie is at the very, very end. It's still released under Paramount because Paramount was releasing all of the Phase 1 movies. Okay. And I'm sure Paramount absolutely regrets giving this movie up. But basically... so Disney reaped all the profits from this movie.
We did nothing but sit here.
But their name was not on the front of it. Okay. It only showed up at the end, which, again, they didn't care about that. They got their money.
Yeah, so. They just have to sit there and they got $1 million thrown at them for nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to remember.
Millions of dollars thrown at them. So, all right. So we're on to our final thoughts. Yes. Obviously, you've heard us gush about this movie, so you know how much we love this movie. What's your rating? Give it to me. It's going to be lower than mine, I promise.
Well, yeah, because I already set the bar really high, so we already knew that. But I'm still a Spider-Man fan, no matter what. 8.75. Because I can't let anything beat my Spider-Man movies.
I got you.
Nothing can.
That's fine.
But it's up there.
So this movie, for me, it's really hard to be objective about this movie because I just remember the experience I had in the theater and how much I loved it.
Yeah.
And so this, to me, remains, I think, my favorite MCU movie.
Really? Okay.
I think it does. It's gonna be. We're gonna be doing some more rewatches. So maybe one of those other ones that's close to it.
19 movies, dude.
But this movie to me is as perfect a movie as can be. I enjoy it incredibly. It's 9.9. Nice. I don't care. 9.9 out of 10. I love this movie.
I will say this. I mean, my Spider-Man fan kicks in where I can't let certain movies beat Spider-Man. I'm a Spider-Man freak, but there are still plot holes. And there's always going to be plot holes in any movie you do. There's like you just kind of pointed out. Why not just mind control the doctor and bring it in?
The whole scene with Thanos doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Don't worry
and
about
I think that's where I can't give it the 9 because Thanos, it felt so much like just a random. I'm just gonna throw this. We need someone to throw him in there because we had no lead up to him.
It may have felt that way, but then they paid it off.
It paid off. Oh yeah, it paid off. But as the movie, if I had to watch just this movie as a standstill. And I watched, let's say even if I watched Avengers Age of Ultron, it's not mentioned in there at all. So Thanos is this kind of
Thanos doesn't show up until the post-credits of Age of Ultron. He's in Age of Ultron 2. He's only in post-credit scenes until Guardians of the Galaxy is his first scene in a movie. But yeah, this in Age of Ultron, he gets post-credit scenes.
Which, to me, at that point, what's the point?
Well, because they're obviously setting stuff up. And I love in this movie, there's, you talked about comic callbacks. So in the comics, Thanos is part of his deal is that he's in love with death. The actual manifestation, the character of death. Yes. And so there's a great line whereas, to challenge the humans is to court death. And you get, that's where he turns and smiles, the Thanos smile.
It still gives me chills.
And it's one of those moments too where that's one of those dividing moments in the theater, and I remember it.
Same.
With all of a sudden there were like 90% of the audience going, "Who's that?"
So, and
you just have only a few of us are like, "Oh my God!"
I love that you say that because. So again, I believe I was with my daughter's mother, or whatever girlfriend I was in at the time, because I could have been dating a different girl.
Ew.
So around that time, but I knew Thanos was in the post credits.
Okay.
I already had known.
Okay.
And I wore a Thanos T-shirt.
You had it spoiled.
And so it didn't say his name. It just had his face on it. Right?
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm not gonna be like overly. I go in there and I remember walking down the stairs and a girl looks at me. She's like, "You already knew, didn't you?" I was like, "Yes." Some random woman was like, "You knew Thanos was in this." I was like, "Yeah, I did." I was like, I looked it up because I wanted to know who was in it. Because at this point, we already got used to the end credits. So I want to know, do I really have to stay? Do I not? Yes, I have to stay. My boy Thanos is in it. I got to stay.
Yep.
But like you said, I think that's where I kind of mix some of the future knowledge with this rating because that death part never, ever plays
It doesn't come back.
And that's what makes me sad.
Yeah.
Because you're right. He is so in love with death. In the comics, he killed all his own kids for her.
And that's like, in the comics, his motivation, which they obviously changed for the movie, is like, I'm going to kill off half the population to impress death.
Exactly.
Because I love her. And obviously she wants more death.
And after
she's death.
And after he got the stones, he does like some other stuff. And it's like, she doesn't care. He's like, "Oh, I forgot. Okay, half the universe gone. Do you love me now?"
Right.
And it was just like, wow, in the comics you read it because it was like he completely forgot he promised her.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, stupid me.
And it's definitely like in the comics, I mean, his nickname is the Mad Titan.
Yes.
Which
never comes up.
In the movies, he's more like the well thought out Titan that like obviously he's insane because he kills. Yeah, they do use that title for him, but at the end of the day, like his motivations in the movies are more rounded in like I want to help people is in his twisted logic. That's kind of
which
where he's
always
going.
Has, and
so I kind of that's a conversation for a different day. We'll get to Thanos and his motivations much later.
Oh yeah.
But for now, we've been talking about the Avengers. Obviously, we love it. Drop your comments in the comments section down below. Tell us how much you love this movie. Maybe you think we're wrong. So anyways, that's Aaron. I'm Robert. Get your geek on. Next time we're talking about Iron Man 3. Will we score it as highly as the Avengers?
Who knows?
Only you can find out if you tune in next time. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay geeky.
What keeps you geeky, guys?